Hello folks. Well, this time I want to go through what's necessary for Lab 3 and all the fun and joy associated with that. So let's see what we've got. So as usual, you're going to begin this by pulling the changes that I've made to the project repository and merging those with what you've got now. And then essentially you're going to be going through and updating a makefile. You're going to be completing one set of one set of methods for the item tree class. I'll talk about that in a sec, but it's playing with iterators. You're going to be going through the user requirements for the demo program, so we'll talk about that. And you're going to come up with a list of problems that seem to exist in the demo program based on what the user wants. And then you're going to write up a couple of bug reports on two of the more serious defects that you came across when you were putting your list together. And of course, as always, you're going to push and or do your adds, commits, and pushes to get this all back to me for marking before the Friday deadline. Let's see. So in terms of the individual steps, again, you want to go through, do your pull as usual to get the updates for the project. When you do that, you'll find that I've rearranged the structure of the coding files that are in there. So there's a directory created for header files, a directory for .cpp files, a directory for executables, a directory for .o files, and the makefile and the hash includes in the source code have been updated so that they compile correctly based on this new structure. Now, in terms of the .cpp files, the demo.cpp has moved into that source code directory. And you'll also find now an item tree.cpp file. So it's got the implementation of the item tree class. And then you'll see two text files, bug report.txt and a bug report guide.txt. So the guide has an outline of what I think your bug reports should look like, the kinds of things to include in them, and the formatting to use. And then in the bug report.txt, you're actually going to fill in a couple of bug reports. So make sure you've got all those, and as usual, if there's any merge conflicts when you do this pull, resolve those. Hopefully there shouldn't be. I don't think there are any big changes that should be a surprise there. So maybe we'll just take a quick look at those the repository contents. So it should wind up looking something like this, where you've got those two bug report files I mentioned. There's the web page that's got the lab instructions in it. This updated makefile, and then everything else has been pushed into these other directories. So you've still got your man1 directory, and you've still got your tests directory from previous labs. But now there's a bin directory that's going to have the executable in it, a header directory that's got the .h files, an object directory, that's got the .o files, and a source directory that's got the .cpp files, or at least the ones we've provided so far. And if you take a look in the makefile, it's been updated so that it includes the paths to all of these, right? So it's been updated to rebuild the item tree.o based on the item tree.cpp, check all the correct paths. It's got the make clean in it. So you've got an updated makefile that you can play with. So in terms of the actual lab instructions, again, the idea is for the makefile, I want you to go through, and it doesn't use the .phony tag yet, so I want you to add that. I want you to add the use of the $@ and $less than variables. So in all those compilation commands in the makefile, update it to use those for the name of the first dependency and the name of the target that you're building. So I want you to go through and use those, make sure that your makefile still works. Go through, and I want you to create a variable to hold the error checking options that we want the compiler to use. So -wal -wextra. So create a variable for that and make sure that each of the G++ instructions in the makefile actually uses that variable. And also add a variable that's going to have the list of the .o files that should be removed, right? Don't use star.o because that'll get rid of some of the ones that I've provided that you don't have a way to rebuild. So it will essentially go through and get rid of the demo.o and the item tree.o and ensure that the remove command uses your variable. So again, make sure that that works. Do your add and commit once you've got the make file done. Again, keep your commits distinct. So have commits that are based on changes to the make file. Have commits that are based on changes to the item tree.cpp. Have commits that are based on changes to your bug reporting. So again, keep that distinct. Keep the project standards in mind. So what you're doing in terms of C++ programming is you're going to go through and write the bodies of 3 methods in item tree.cpp. So there's a print quad for printing out the list of items that are contained in that particular tree node, and there's 2 finding quad methods that are basically going through and searching the items in a particular tree node to look for a match. So essentially this is just going through and using the iterator examples that we talked about before, right? These are just lists of item pointers. So you're iterating through those lists, as we talked about in the other videos, to go through and either print the contents or find a match. So you're going to be completing those, making sure that it actually works, right? Keeping them conforming to standards, making sure that it compiles cleanly, making sure that the demo program works correctly again. Don't alter the other stuff in item tree.cpp. Don't change any of the .h files. Yeah, and other than that, we should be good to go there. So that gives you a chance to play with iterators and C++, and keeps the scope of the changes that you have to make relatively limited. And again, make sure that you've got adds and commits for each of the I do one for each of the different methods that you're implementing. Right, so one commit for the print quad once you got that working, one for the first of the find quads, and one for the other of the find quads. Once you've got those done, or as a side as you're going through this process, I've posted a list of what the user wanted from the demo program. So if you follow this link, you'll see that there's the user's original requirements for the demo. You're not required, and please don't change the program to conform to these, but this is what the user was hoping for when they asked for the demo program. So it's got a list of, what each of the different options should do, what things should happen at the top. It discusses the error checking that should take place. It discusses the output formatting that should take place. All of that kind of thing is talked about in their requirements, and there might be some omissions, there might be some gaps, there might be some contradictions, but again, that's part of the joys of dealing with user requirements. So I want you to read through that and then start looking for essentially defects in the demo program, figuring out where the demo program fails to do what the user's asking. So I'd like you to put together just a couple of short point form lists, or they don't have to be full detailed bug reports, just point form lists of where the demo program fails in terms of formatting. So this might be things like missing new lines, or the white space is incorrect, or typos, or short or wording mistakes in the output of different parts of the program. So that's basically just sort of straightforward short output formatting fixes eventually. So format defects is one list, and then the actual functional defects will be your other list. So that will contain a list of the cases where the demo program fails to behave correctly, where it actually does the wrong thing. So I want you to write up those 2 point form lists, right? And you're going to be adding to this over the course of time as you recognize more and more things that it doesn't do correctly, and there are a bunch of them. So I want you to write those 2 up, and again, make sure that you have commits for your lists. And then I want you to pick 2 of the more significant functional defects that you found. Right? Don't pick something trivial. Pick something that's got some impact to it. So find pick 2 of the more significant defects from your list, and write up bug reports on those too. So for those, again, look at what's in the bug report guide to see what I want you to do, what kind of content I expect in the bug report, and then write up one bug report for each of them. You can put them both in the same file, but again, I want reports on your two most significant, or two of your most significant defects detected. And again, make sure you add and commit. And once you've got it all done, make sure you remember your final adds and commits. Use your git status to check and make sure everything's up to date, and do your final push to get everything back to me. So that's the plan. I don't think there are too many other big surprises. Again, if you take a look in the bug report, if I can spell, guide.txt. Again, it goes through, talks about the guidelines I want you to follow, the principles that we're trying to adhere to, and the information that I want you to make sure that you include. Right, so put those in the correct file, and hopefully we should be good to go. All right, I will leave it there.